Hello? Where'd everybody go? You get a large roll of Flex Tape Clear for just $19.99. Plus, we'll include a handy can of Flex Seal, Flex Shot, Flex Glue, or Flex Seal Liquid. Call right now. That's amazing!
Well, it finally happened, Zachary. Somebody burned down my she shed.
Nobody burned down your she shed, Cheryl.
Well, my she shed's on fire.
Your she shed was struck by lightning.
Zachary, is my she shed covered by State Farm?
Your she shed's covered, Cheryl.
You hear that, Victor? I'm getting a new she shed.
She shear?
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful news.
Go with the one that's here to help life go right. State Farm.
Now on Weather Underground, over a foot of rain turning into a Texas flood emergency. Homes underwater, rescues underway of people and pets. We're tracking who's in store for more rain and what's coming together to make this flood disaster.
And it's not just Texas. Pittsburgh neighborhoods underwater. We're going in depth this hour. Who could see the situation unfold as we head into your weekend? And tornadoes developing on the plains. We'll track who's in the threat zone for dangerous storms tonight and into your Friday.
And in depth this hour, flash flood warning, aerial flood warning or advisory. The wording can get confusing. Our hurricane expert joins us as we ask, is there a clearer way to get out this message of dangerous flooding?
Well, welcome into Weather Underground. And by the way, happy summer.
We've made it. Your favorite season and mine.
It's not my favorite season.
I know,
is that
but
bad?
It is mine.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
Yay. Congratulations. I'm really glad you're enjoying it.
We're here.
I'm Alex Wilson here with Mark Elliott on his favorite season.
It's true. It's true.
Cool.
Mother Nature doing the summer weather thing in good fashion tonight. Heat and humidity baking the Mid-South and the Southeast for that matter, providing the fuel for strong summertime storms.
Yeah. And we got to take you, of course, back to Texas with rising floodwater across the area. A lot of people have been taken to local Salvation Army Center while they wait for the water to recede here in McAllen. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has issued a disaster declaration for 6 Texas counties that have been so hard hit by heavy rain and flooding. But scenes like this we have been looking at throughout the day.
It is, just it leaves you in awe a bit when you see that much water. You know people's homes are completely tossed around. Your lives are completely disrupted as this event unfolds. And it's just, group after group wading through, waist-high water.
Yeah.
That is not a good scene.
This is video from Charles Peak, by the way. Charles has been extensively covering the dangerous flood threat in southern Texas, bringing us some of the incredible live pictures last night from Brownsville, today in McAllen. But you mentioned, Mark, this water gets into your home, and it really does turn things completely upside down because a lot of things are not salvageable once they've seen these flood waters move in.
You're not drying out the couch, basically. You have to tear out all the drywall. It becomes an ordeal and something that you just have to get through it, I suppose.
We want to get more on the story across South Texas. Mike Seidel is in Falfurrias, Texas this evening. Mike, we've seen the rain falling at times during your live shots today. We can see the water moving quickly behind you. What's the latest? What are you hearing as you talk to people in the area?
Well, they are happy to see the rain and take care of the drought. But, when you get too much of a good thing, this is what happens. This is 15th Street, north side of Falfurrias, a town of about 5,000. We're 60 miles southwest of Corpus and about 75 miles north of McAllen. So we're well inland from the Gulf of Mexico. Now, about a week or so ago, this was dry. Basically like a dry wash in the desert or an arroyo or like the LA River, the concrete. Now, there is concrete and asphalt here. This is the road between the barricades. It was not washed out. There was no bridge. It just dips down and they let the water flow over it. When you have a situation like this, when you have a foot or more of rainfall in a few days, you are going to get this. So this is not surprising. And also remember, you've got water flowing off the fields and other tributaries into this body of water. This ends up in Baffin Bay and the Gulf of Mexico. So again, turn around, don't drown. Most of the town is fine. We haven't had any other flash flooding today. That occurred on Tuesday night when emergency officials had tried to get the folks on these houses across the creek out of harm's way because the water came up about another 3 feet over the bank and was threatening their homes. Nobody left, I was told by the EMC coordinator, the emergency management coordinator here in town, but everybody is okay. And just around the corner, take a look at another road cut off by Cibolo Creek, and again, the barricades went up for that. What we're looking at right now, just some light rainfall. The heavier rain, the thunder and lightning certainly has been just to our north and east. You can see it right now up in Cleburne County, up towards Kingsville. This will arc back maybe towards Alice. We still have a flash flood watch for this whole area until 7 p.m. this evening. This is going to be the last batch of rain, and then that's going to be it. So I don't think they'll put out additional flash flood warnings because it is moving at a fairly good clip at about 18 to 20 miles an hour, and the rainfall rates are 1 to 2 inches an hour. So there you go, guys. The situation here kind of stagnant. We're not seeing the water come up. We're not seeing the water come down. But the flash flood situation, the urban flooding situation, is non-existent in this part of Texas at this point. We don't expect it to get any worse. And drier weather, sunshine, and 90s into the weekend.
And I think that's a good riddance to that persistent rain setup.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. You know, they needed the rain. Too much of a good thing is a real thing, and that's exactly what they've had across Texas.
We were going to stay inside, but the rain wasn't stopping, and all the water started coming in, and I just wasn't prepared, and I just had to call 911 to get help. And I just noticed my other neighbors were also calling me, so I just need to get out.
Yeah, that young woman not alone. Many people were forced out by the rising waters in deep South Texas and needed assistance to do so. The emergency responders bringing in some big trucks, some boats, some floats, basically anything to get people onto drier ground.
Want to get the very latest on the heavy rain, the flood threat right now. Dr. Rick Knabb has been monitoring this throughout the week, tracking out the storms, timing the heavy rain from the lab. And Dr. Knabb, it's really been South Texas that's been so hard hit, and they still have some rain in the area. But Mike mentioned these are moving.
Yeah, this is the last night of noticeably locally heavy rainfall in deep South Texas, and we've just got updates what the totals have been. And in both Harlingen and McAllen, Texas, over the last 4 days, they've exceeded 16 inches of rainfall. Amazing rainfall totals down here where you still see that spin that hasn't completely left the area. Show you that on radar in just a moment. And we also have an area, a frontal zone up in the mid-Atlantic feeding into this low pressure system that also has an area of concern for some localized flash flooding. So here is the stretching out of our long-lived low pressure area over Texas. The low is making its way down into Mexico, but we still have lingering showers and thunderstorms between Corpus Christi and Brownsville, but it is a lot less coverage than yesterday. But you still could get localized flooding on the roads in some of these areas. But look how it's thinning out. The good news is in the McAllen area and in Mission, the rainfall has really lightened up, but because of so much rain overnight and earlier this morning, the flash flood warning is still in effect for a little while longer, and the flash flood watch remains in effect for this area, again, for localized ongoing flooding. Watch the future radar as this area of spin does make its way into Mexico, and when we get to later tonight, it should really have tapered off in deep South Texas. As we look into the rest of the country, though, we have other areas to worry about for flash flooding into tomorrow morning, anywhere from Davenport, Iowa to Charleston, West Virginia, even into Norfolk. We have flash flood warnings just north of Charleston, just east of Davenport right now. I'll detail those later in the hour. Mark, Alex?
No, it's very, I work. All right. In McAllen, Texas, the mayor declared a flash flood emergency today. Nearly 8 inches of rain falling over the last 24 hours. Incredible totals.
And our crews were there as the fire department helped people to safety. And joining us now with an update on the situation is Kevin Pagan. He's the McAllen Emergency Management Coordinator. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Pretty good. I mean, how are you guys doing? What an ordeal that your area has gone through in the past 24 hours or so.
Yeah, it's been, it's certainly been made worse by the fact the ground was pretty heavily saturated from the heavy rain in the Mid-Valley area yesterday. And then some of our early indications are that in some spots in town we maybe had as much as 14 inches of rain by mid-morning. So it's obviously that's a little more than our drainage system can dispose of quickly, so it has been a little bit of a challenge. But thank goodness it seems to have stopped. Most of the areas are receding. I'm at the location of one of the most difficult areas that we have right now. We're trying to get that under control, but thankfully it does seem to be going down a bit.
What makes it difficult? Why do you say that's the most difficult area?
Just a perfect storm in this particular area. It happens to be, and the folks that are listening from the area, I'm going to mention it so they'll maybe try to avoid this area. The area between Taylor Road and Benson Road, between Pecan and Daffodil, it happens to be an area where both a drainage canal and what we call an irrigation canal run very close together. The irrigation canal, although obviously they're not irrigating today, filled up with water runoff from the mission area, and the irrigation canal was actually dumping water into the drainage canal as well as the regular drainage, and so you put all that water in one place, and there's just nowhere for it to go. So unfortunately, it's backed up into one or two of these subdivisions here, and we're working that problem right now. But we have, as far as I can tell, we have removed anybody out of these subdivisions that wanted to move. The water is definitely in the streets here. It does look like it's in some of these homes, but hopefully not too many. But thankfully, the worst of the problem is kind of confined to this area of McAllen at the moment.
Yeah, and we've been watching the video across the area throughout the day, and we've seen a lot of emergency responders. How quickly were you able to get people out there? Because it looked like in every situation that we saw, there were people out there to help the folks who needed it.
Well, fortunately, we were ready as the rain was coming down. We were deploying people, and we had people at key intersections. Of course, at the time, they were originally deployed to barricade intersections that were flooding, but also there are sort of our spotters on the ground. And as soon as some of these subdivisions began to have problems, we immediately had first responders out here. We have a great relationship with all of our neighbors, our neighboring cities, the county emergency management folks. The state is actually here. And so we do have plenty of folks to respond as quickly as needed. And like I say, at this point, we're saying a little prayer of thanks. It does not appear that anybody has been seriously injured that we know of, and we're continuing to monitor that.
And that is great news. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us, bringing us up to date on what's going on. Emergency management coordinator, so he's had a full day of working on the emergency situation ongoing there.
And it really was that. When you get rain that heavy, that fast, you wind up with an emergency on your hands. Now, there are some other areas of concern tonight. Want to give you a bit of an update on where some of the other active weather is. Memphis, some puffy clouds in the distance. Chicago, kind of foggy. Some rain has come through already. But you can look at the active radar picture and say, seems a little bit out of season. You might see a big spiraling area of low pressure like this with this big spin, and then these kind of fronts and dry air in between in the middle of winter or even early spring, but not usually as we get into summer. That said, that's the setup we've got, these big spirals. So let's start out by getting towards some severe thunderstorm warnings that are still on the southern side of those bands of rain. We're looking at Lauderdale, Mississippi, and Tipton counties, basically right along 55. So here's Memphis. You got Tennessee.